Welcome back, everyone. I'm Robin from This Blog's Neat, and I just finished mopping. So I decided I deserved a reward for mopping, although I should be mopping more often and shouldn't really have to celebrate every single time I mop. So my reward is like fine. It's not a super special reward. I am tasting a rum, and obviously if you clicked this video, you probably saw the thumbnail and know what rum I'm trying. This is Monymusk, their classic gold rum. It's 40% ABV. The label, it says distinctively smooth on it. Like, there's a lot about this bottle that I wouldn't have normally grabbed this, but it was $9.99 at K&L. It was marked down from $33 to $9.99, so it felt like I just had to pick it up. It felt pretty much free. So yeah, so we're gonna taste this. I figure it's a perfect rum to have after mopping. So if you've never heard of Monymusk before, this is a Jamaican rum. It's produced by the Clarendon Distillery. Now, Clarendon produces a ton of rum. Most of what they produce is bulk rum. About 90% of it goes to Diageo. And if you haven't heard of Diageo, they own like all the booze in the world, essentially. The Clarendon Distillery, along with Long Pond and Innswood, are owned by National Rums of Jamaica. Now, National Rums of Jamaica is owned by 3 different entities. It's owned by the government, the Jamaican government, in the form of the National Sugar Company, Maison Ferrand, which owns Plantation, which is a huge rum brand, and Demerara Distillers Limited. So 1/3 of each of these entities owns National Rums of Jamaica. And interestingly, National Rums of Jamaica only owns 73% of the Clarendon Distillery. The other 27% is owned by Diageo. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Now you might be asking why Diageo is involved. Why is Diageo part owner? Why does Diageo buy 90% of the rum produced at Clarendon? That's because they produce 2 very famous brands you might know in the US. We have Captain Morgan and Myers. Now, some of you Captain Morgan fans out there, I'm assuming they exist, and if they do, they might not be watching my channel. But some of you Captain Morgan fans or people who know of Captain Morgan might be saying, wait a second, Captain Morgan isn't produced in Jamaica, it's produced in St. Croix, right? It's produced in the US Virgin Islands. Now this is where it gets confusing, because you would be right. Captain Morgan, owned by Diageo, is produced in St. Croix. But this is only the bottles that get exported to the US. That's where Captain Morgan is made. This video is not about Captain Morgan, by the way. So Captain Morgan for US export is produced in the US Virgin Islands, so St. Croix. That's because of tax breaks, right? I just talked about this in another video. Taxes just like really shape how we do things in booze. The Captain Morgan that gets exported to Europe, however, does not get to take advantage of these tax breaks. So Captain Morgan that gets exported to Europe is made in Jamaica at the Clarendon Distillery. Now, if you're in Jamaica and you buy a bottle of Captain Morgan, it is not produced by the Clarendon Distillery. It is not produced in St. Croix. It is produced by J. Wray and Nephew. And that is because Diageo does not own the trademark to Captain Morgan in Jamaica. This is a confusing video. We're talking about mopping, we're talking about taxes, we're talking about owners of distilleries and part owners, and Anyways, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the production at the Clarendon Distillery where Monymusk is made. They have both column stills and pot stills. The pot stills are these lovely double retort pot stills. They produce about 25% of the rums that come out of Clarendon. And they have two different marks. They have a light pot still rum and a heavy pot still rum. This pretty much just means the amount of esters that are in there. For the light rum, it's a lot cleaner. For the heavy rum, it's a lot more ester driven. The heavy pot still rum has an ester concentration that's around 550 grams of esters per hectoliter of pure alcohol, which for reference is around the same mark as Hamden's HLCF, which is rum fire. And the way they accomplish this higher ester production is by doing a very, very long fermentation. So they ferment for about a month in these open air wooden vats. Now for the other 75% of the rum that's produced at Clarendon, it is produced in the column still. They produce 3 different marks there with the column still rum that ranges from like light rum all the way up to essentially pure alcohol, AKA vodka. Now, I don't know exactly what went into Monymusk here. My guess is that it's a blend of pot and column. But I do know that this was aged for at least 5 years. That's what it says on the back of the bottle in ex-bourbon barrels. I'm trying to get the dust and my fingerprints off of it. So even though this is bottled at 40% ABV, it is non-chill filtered, which is something that I like about it. And you can actually see that there's some haziness. I don't know if that's even noticeable in the camera, but you can see that there's some haziness in here. Haziness is normal. Little cloudy, oily spots. That's totally normal. Just a couple little floaters. But yeah, I think I should taste now. But before I taste, I do want to give a huge shout out to the Patreons. Thank you guys so much for helping to support the channel. And if you, the viewer, would also like to join us over on Patreon, I've got a link in the description below and I would be forever grateful for your support. So the color for being aged 5 years, not too dark at all. I call that a pretty basic honey color. Look, I feel like there's even floaters in the glass too, but maybe that's, I don't think the glass was dirty. So the nose is pretty light. It's 40% ABV. So the aromas are much lighter. And when that's the case, instead of swirling and releasing a lot of the alcohol vapors, I feel like it's pretty aggressive when you swirl your glass. I prefer to just cup the base, warm it up a little bit, and that will help with kind of releasing some more of those aromas. There's caramelized orange, like there's a lot of like oiliness, so it's reminding me of like orange oils. There's definitely baking spice, there's cloves, and there's cinnamon. Maybe a hint of star anise and some allspice. There's a little woody aspect to this, which I didn't expect. Not woody as in oaky, but like woody as in like a little bit of wet mulch. There might be some other light fruits in here, but the fruitiness, overall the aroma is pretty delicate. So like the fruitiness is really delicate, and the most that I'm getting is that citrus, that like sweet, juicy, caramelized orange. Wow, I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by this. For it being 40%, I didn't expect, and because the nose was so light, I didn't expect to get a whole bunch of flavor. And I'm not saying that this is super complex by any means, but it's really nice. It's really nicely balanced. There's like juicy fig jam right off the bat. I love that. And then it goes through these waves of like spiciness, some more dried fruits, some caramel, and it's finishing with a little bit of like fruit leather, oh my God, fruit leather. A little bit of like fruit leather meets actual leather. That orange comes through, a lot of like orange zest, or like when you express the oil of the orange and then kind of give it a little like flame thing, because there's a little bit of that like charred aspect here. Prunes in the finish. Maybe the fruit leather is prune fruit leather. A lot of cinnamon bark, a lot of cloves. So it's more of those like dark, almost woody baking spice notes. And then the aftertaste has a little bit of this like almost copper metallic quality. Not a dirty penny, but like a really clean penny. Yeah, it's a little sweet, slightly metallic. There's just hints of that in the aftertaste. On the nose, I'm now getting like really nice caramelized plantains. I would be remiss to not talk about the mouthfeel. So as far as the mouthfeel goes, this is not too thin. It's not super oily by any means, but I'd give it a nice viscosity for 40%. I expected something really thin, but no, it's got a decent viscosity to it. I'll say decent. It's not thin. It's not silky and oily. Somewhere in between. Not quite creamy either, like maybe whole milk. But yeah, I thought this was great. Okay, so for $9.99, definitely a great thing to pick up. This would be a wonderful little intro rum for people looking to dip their toe into the Jamaican rum world. It's got some of that fruitiness without being overly funky by any means. Like I wouldn't even call this funky at all. It gives you some of that fruitiness, some of that barrel characteristics, right? A little bit of the char, a little bit of the baking spices in here. And it was $9.99. $9.99. If you can find it for $9.99, yeah, I'd recommend picking it up. If you see it for $19.99, yeah, give it a go. If you could find it for $33, right, what it was originally listed at, pick it up if you want. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I taste rums and whiskeys and brandies and all other distilled spirits. And let me know in the comments if you have tried anything from Monymusk before.